Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dynamics Podcast. My name, of course, is Fredrik Sætre, and joining me today is my lovely colleague and still confidant, the best man probably on this side of the hemisphere. It's Tommy Skaue. Hi, Tommy.
What a pitch. Hi, Fredrik. How are you, man?
I'm good. So, you've been out hiking. I seen pictures on Snapchat and on. Do you have a shared profile on Instagram?
Yes, I do. It's public. But I'm not even sure what my Insta tag is. But you can put it on.
We'll put it in the description or the whatnot.
I'm not sharing any. I'm just sharing pictures from around the area here when I do hiking. Pictures from the nature, what have you. Yeah.
And you can go there, and we'll put some pictures up when we come to. Make sure that we get some nice pictures of you hiking, Tommy, because we're lucky enough to live in Norway, which is a super rural part of the earth, but we live pretty close to nature. Me on the West Coast, I do a lot of hiking as well, and you with it, but the mountains here on the West Coast are really like tall and long. When you get up to them, you can walk for a long time inwards to the vidda, which we call it. But on your side of or northern part of the country, there are these like really jagged, big, steep mountains that you can go to, which just looks amazing. And I get so envious when you post pictures.
Yeah, it's mostly my wife dragging me on top of these mountains to keep me around for as long as possible. But there is. The carrot is getting to the top and getting the view. That's the price. But you're right. Some of these mountains you can easily get up on top within the hour, depending on how fit you are. Some of these mountains, my wife would probably get up in 30, 40 minutes, and I'll spend 1 hour and 10 minutes, or maybe even more. And some of these trips are longer. And the one I was on last Saturday. We started around 1 p.m. and on our way up there, it was like, are we going to make it down before it gets dark? Because we knew that around 6 p.m. it's going to get dusk, and then you don't want to be walking around in the mountains at least not without a flashlight or something. So, but we managed. We were down within 4 p.m., so we were good.
Good to hear you still got sunlight. So I thought we'll focus on, because last episode we talked a little bit about Fast Track and what that was and what you do and what's been happening on the partner side for the last year or so. But I thought you wanted to talk about the process and me as well. From when you buy the licenses and you want to start up the project. So what do you do when you get into it? What do you have to think about when you get started? What do Fast Track kind of require for you to fill out? How can you use the tools that are available, because there are a lot of tools that you can use, and just simply using LCS. And when users get started, so we buy the licenses, what happens kind of next after that?
Yeah, so as you probably know, you have to buy at a minimum 20 enterprise eligible users before you can get the ERP solution, the finance operations.
Yeah, so that's finance licenses or the supply chain SKU.
That's true. So from the 1st of October, they made it so that you can purchase finance-based licenses, what I call them, and SCM, supply chain management based licenses. And if you need the additional functionality, you can attach either or. So you can have a finance base with an SCM attached, or an SCM base with a finance attached. And then you have retail as well on top of that. But either way, you need at least 20 of them to get started.
So 20 base licenses. That's what.
And 20 base that would count as 20 eligible, enterprise eligible, and would give you the product for sure. So the next thing that happens, and I'm not too familiar or too into the sales part of that, but when the product has been purchased, it's purchased towards what we call the customer tenant or tenant. And I'm just going to pause there for a minute, because one thing we've seen is sometimes the customer ends up purchasing the product not towards their actual tenant, but some other tenant.
Oh.
And that typically causes some problems, because then they have to go and decommission those licenses and put them on the right tenant. It's something we discover when they start taking off. Basically, we see that, wait a minute, that doesn't look like your real tenant. What's going on here?
Okay.
But let's assume for a minute that they purchase the products for the right tenant.
Okay, so that's really important. Step one.
It
but
is.
if you when you buy licenses, if you do it on CSP or EA or any other type of kind of commercial deal that you can do, so CSP through partners, the other deals are directly with Microsoft, often through a licensing partner. But when you do that, make sure that you buy them on the correct tenant. So when you take them out, make sure they're on the right tenant. All right.
Yeah, because I mean, it's actually quite easy to create a tenant as long as it has a unique name. So it's fairly easy for the reseller to just create a tenant, name it something along the lines of the customer, and off you go.
Funny story, Tommy. I actually had a customer wanting to go live on an external consultant created a private tenant with his name in it, and they were because they were so far down the rabbit hole, they actually were looking to go live on some random names tenant. That was
I don't know the actual percentage of how many implementations the tenants are not the accurate one. I don't think it's as much as 10%, but it's higher than it should be. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so now you have the product, and the next thing that happens is that anyone who's a global admin on the customer's Azure AD can basically go ahead and access Lifecycle Services portal. And the very first time someone does that, they will initiate the flow that creates the implementation project. So it's a special type of project in Lifecycle Services.
Okay, and so they have to be a global administrator of the tenant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they don't have to be a global admin, but I'm just saying that anyone who's a global admin can do it. Okay. So you can be a non-global admin, that's fine, but I would probably recommend having someone with elevated permissions setting this up.
Okay.
But if you do a non-elevated user, that's also fine. Just make sure that you add someone with wide permissions to the project as well. And the reason I'm saying that is because I can tell who's global admin on the customer's side, and it could be helpful for me to know that the customer is actually involved in the project itself. So when you get in the first flow, you get a question if you want to create a financial operations or a retail implementation project, as it is today. So just make sure you pick the right one. But that would initiate the flow that creates actually the organization for you inside of LCS, and it will also create the implementation project for you in LCS. If a second or a third global admin accesses LCS, they might not see the project itself on the front page. They'll have to go and look at, I think there's a tab called implementation projects, and they can go in there and add themselves to the project. They would also be automatically part of the organization. And I'm saying this so that people know that there's a way to get in for the global admins. Okay. Yeah. Now the product, when it's being created, you will have this, let's say, this special view of the project where you see sort of like a trimmed down view of LCS projects. Looks slightly different from how a regular project looks. And you will have this action center on the left-hand side that tells you a lot of the things that you need to do in order to get started. And one of the very first things you need to do is go through the onboarding process. And the onboarding process is as it is right now, as of the 23rd of August this year, 2019. Yep. 2019, because maybe if someone watches this in 2020 or later. You are enforced to go through that onboarding process, and before you can even deploy a single environment of the environments that are coming along with the license. I mean, you can set up the Azure subscription connection and deploy your cloud-hosted environments. That's fine. But for the environments like the sandbox environment, you will have to go through this onboarding process. And through that process, we are asking you a series of questions. We're asking you, when are you planning to go live? Who's going to be part of this team? What is the scope of the project, etc., etc. And we found that asking out these questions up front early on is very helpful for us to understand what type of project this is and how we can help you succeed in this implementation. So that's why this is done now through LCS as a wizard. I mean, if you've been doing implementations for a while, you know that we've been reaching out to you as soon as we see that you have created a project. We are reaching out to you to see to do these onboarding sessions. But now it's handled directly through LCS. And looking at the process so far, it seems like most people they do the onboarding pretty early and they complete it pretty early. Seems like some people are getting stumped by setting up the ALM stuff, like the Azure DevOps and all of that stuff. But for the most part, those things are also being set up fairly quickly. So it's all good.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's the onboarding parts.
Yep.
Okay. So that then they start the project. Then they got the UAT environment, and they can add additional sandbox environments. They start hopefully not that much development, but they can do. And then at some time we're getting close to go live. If you were listen to the last podcast, it's when you start up this process, you might be eligible for the not the essential, which everybody gets, but the standard fast track process. And then you will have an engineer kind of follow you along the entire project. But what's different on the essential one is that you get that initial go live help, getting up and running, starting the project, and then you do a check-in afterwards. What happens?
Yeah, that's correct. So through the onboarding process, we will get some sort of idea of how big, what's the size of this implementation. And depending on the size of the implementation, you might be eligible for the full fast track program and all of these workshops that we can provide to drive the success for the partner and the customer, obviously. If you want to partake in that, then you get a dedicated solution architect from Microsoft that will reach out to you and be there and do workshops with the customer and the partner and on site. And all that goodness that comes with all of these workshops to make sure that you succeed.
All right. So when they go live, then what happens running up to that go live point in time?
Well, I mean, I can mention a couple of things. We will help you go through, make sure that you have a good overview of the complete solution, all of your integrations, all the business processes, that you covered everything, and also make sure that you run through the expected processes in terms of, let's say, performance testing, acceptance testing, and integration testing if you have any integrations, etc. And also make sure that you have a good setup around the application lifecycle management and database lifecycle management. And obviously environment planning. How many environments do you need? Do you need additional add-on environments? Do you need a tier 4, tier 5 type of performance test environment because of the heavy load of transactions you're planning or the heavy load of users you're planning to have on your system? So all of this knowledge, the solution architect will provide for the partner and the customer as part of this. And I mean, for some partners, they are already experienced and know all of this and they know how to drive this. So from the Microsoft side, it will mostly be just making sure that everything is good. So, yeah. And then, I mean, obviously you get to the go live, and we will be there. Microsoft will be there and help them do the cutover and the go live itself. And actually, at the end of that, when go live is done, the fast track program is actually pulling itself more out of that, because at the end of the day, it's the partner who's accountable for driving the success of the customer primarily. We are there to help that. But it is the partner's responsibility, to make this a good story.
Yeah, and then of course we have the support apparatus and everything that kind of goes into being a serviceable web service for our customers. We make sure that everything with the environment is up and running, and we have this mad SLA. It's 99.9%. It's really good. I love it. So the story is the story starts with basically my department, where we start the selling and helping the customer envision what they can do with the solutions. The partners, or it runs through the envisioning runs through with a partner. Then they start up. They go and buy the licenses, start up with the first environment, which we talked about. Run through the process of getting onboarded, get the implementation running, do some checklists on the end, like have you done all your due diligence to go live, and then get started, and then it hands off. It hands it off to the support. That's basically how the process starts. Have you seen any processes that are like really super fast, where people just come in and ask for the live environment immediately?
Well, I've seen attempts of getting production environment too quick, and they are not ready. Sometimes it works okay. Sometimes it results in the go live was there, but they didn't start using the system.
Okay.
Because it wasn't parameterized. It wasn't set up. It wasn't configured.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that setting up ERP is a complex thing. So unless you have a very good vertical pre-configured solution that you can just spin up that just simply works out of the box for the customer, I don't see how you can even succeed with that within, a week or a couple of weeks anyway. Yep. Because there are so many differences between the customers and their processes. Even though there are similarities, there are so many differences. And the configuration itself is going to take time, and also validate that all your business processes are running the way they're supposed to. So,
yep.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. I think that's our second episode.
Oh,
cool. And we'll make sure to come back with some information. I think we need to talk more about the fast track engineers, and there's a really nice program there. We should get some of them on.
Yeah, we should also bring some of them on the show, so they can tell us more about the program. It's an open invitation to some of you to join us and talk about the process of being a fast track recognized engineer. Is that the proper term? Oh yeah, but those are not Microsoft employees. Those are successful implementers. Yeah, sure. Bring those on. We have who was it? Thomas, his name is one that I saw on LinkedIn earlier. Yeah,
got his award. It looked really.
That was surprisingly
I was so envious.
Nice. Yeah,
that was looking
really good.
It won up the MVP award. It did.
Yeah.
Well, it only looked nicer, right? And there was like these small discs, so it looks like it's going to be sort of like something that they're recognized for year over year. So it's our little very own addition to the MVP program. We have the fast track recognized engineers as well. So cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, see you later, Tommy. You probably have to go work now because, even though it's late right now, you are covering the entire world from a fast track. You work all day, all night, making sure that our customers are successfully implementing our products. And thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. I hope that people enjoy us picking this up, and comment down below if you want some topics, something that you want to have addressed or talked about.
Click the subscribe button as well, and hit that bell to be notified when we go live, because we do these live when we record them, so you can get them really early. If you subscribe, make sure that you do that, and then we'll take them offline. I'll do some editing and some magic, and then we'll repost them as the finished product, which is this new season of the Dynamics podcast, and we hope you like it. All right, bye guys.
Bye.